Curiously, on the set of this movie, Justin says that he was having his own problems because though he was the director, he somehow lost all control. And the edit that he would have made that was going to go out, somehow she wrested control from him. She took over the editing process. The final cut was her cut. And that not only was she taking control from him, she was going out on red carpets claiming that her husband had written specific scenes in this movie. Now, if you've seen any scenes from this movie, you would not take credit for anything that had happened in this movie because a stupider film I have never seen. But take this clip, for instance.
I want a divorce. It's not for you or me, it's for her. One day she came to you and said, my boyfriend hit me. What would you say to her?
I would beg her to leave him.
Yeah.
And I'd beg her never to go back.
This movie is all about people who are in an abusive relationship in every conceivable way, physically and sexually and emotionally. So these two people come together, they have a child, and then she says, you know what? I want better for my daughter, and the best thing I can do is get her dad out of her life. Okay? So they have this conversation in which she tells her abuser, who has pulled her around by the hair, knocked her around, abused her in every conceivable way. She lets him know that they're going to get a divorce because he's the worst and she doesn't want anything to do with her daughter. And the abuser sits there with tears in his eyes going, you know what, you're right. And I'm like, this isn't a bedtime story about abusers. If your abuser was the sort of person who's going to throw you around like that, and then you tell him you're going to take his kid away from him and blame him for why this has happened, your abuser is the way that he is because he's never had a moment of self-reflection in his life. Which is why this would not work to have this little come to Jesus talk. And she's over there stoically being like, yep, that's what's going to happen because this is what you want for your daughter. And he's over there being like, I'm seeing the light. I'm having this moment. If you're married to somebody who could see the light like that, maybe that's the time not to take the daddy out of the child's life. If you're married to somebody who could be this understanding about all of his own flaws, maybe he's turned a legitimate corner, or maybe he already turned a corner before if he could ever hear that you say this stuff to him and not fly up in a blind rage, because he's flown up in many a blind rage before. The whole scene was the most unrealistic garbage I'd ever seen. But whatever, they both wanted their stamp on it. So Justin and Blake are battling. Who's going to get their stamp on this complete and total fairy tale about abuse?